Good morning, everyone. It's now 10 o'clock and it's time for the AnteoTech Annual General Meeting for 2024 to begin. Welcome to everybody in the room and welcome to everybody who has joined us online. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet here in Brisbane today, the Turrbal and Jagera people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We have reached the appointed time and a quorum is present. I am pleased to declare this meeting of members of AnteoTech to be open. All attendees should have registered their attendance at the registration desk and via the streaming service. Please see the registration desk if you have not already done so. Before we proceed further, can you please turn off or silence mobile phones? And I also remind you that the use of recording equipment is not permitted at this AGM. Today's meeting is also being live streamed and recorded, with shareholders able to view the meeting live but not able to ask questions, make comments or vote through the webcast facilities. Let me now ask our Company Secretary, Andrew Cook, to outline the safety and emergency evacuation procedures for those attending in person. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Ewan, and good morning, everybody. For all our safety, I also need to advise of the evacuation procedures. Please take a quick look for the green lit exit signs at the back. In the case of an emergency in the hotel, please stay calm and follow the instructions given by the staff. The hotel has two distinct alarms. Warning, which is the first tone, will sound throughout the building when the fire alarm is activated, or evacuation, which is the second tone, if there is a pending emergency. This is a standby alarm. Do not evacuate the room, but be prepared to evacuate if it becomes necessary. The first tone warning, beep beep. Should you hear the alert tone, please adhere to the following. Prepare to evacuate, identify fire exits in your immediate area, and await further instructions from the fire warden staff. For the second tone, evacuation, which is a whoop whoop, should you hear the evacuation tone, please adhere to the following. Calmly make your way to the nearest emergency exit, await staff and proceed to the assembly point on the ground level in Glenelg Street under the bridge, where you'll be briefed on the situation. Do not use the lifts and follow staff instructions at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Now let me introduce you to my colleagues here in the front row. Glenda McLaughlin, who's Chair of our Audit and Risk Committee and a member of the Remuneration and Nomination Committee. Catherine Woodthorpe, who is Chair of the Remuneration and Nomination Committee and a member of the Audit and Risk Committee. Jeff Cumming, who is a member of both committees, and our Chief Executive and Managing Director, David Radford. Also present today over here is Lucas Molinos, representing BDO. Lucas will be able to answer questions in respect of the audit when we consider the financial statements. The senior executive team is also represented here today. Andrew Cook on the front table is our Chief Financial Officer and Company Secretary. Katrina Byrne is our Chief Operating Officer. Manuel Weiser is here in the front row, who's our Chief Technology Officer. Chui Lin is also here. She is our Chief Marketing Officer, and in the front row is Frederica Grazer, Director of Strategic Growth Initiatives. The team will be available after the meeting to answer any questions about AnteoTech's business or operations. The notice of meeting has been called under a notice dated 24 October 2024. This was released to ASX by share registry provider Link Market Services and has been on Anteo's website. It has also been dispatched to those shareholders who elected to receive a hard copy of the notice of material and meeting materials. I now table the notice of meeting and will take it as read. The minutes of the previous annual general meeting of shareholders, held on 14 November 2023, being in order, was signed by me as chair of the meeting and are also tabled for the information of shareholders. Before we turn to the resolutions to be dealt with in the formal business of today's meeting, there will be a few remarks from me followed by a presentation from David Radford, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer. We will then have an opportunity for questions as the resolutions are considered. Various questions were provided in advance of today's meeting. To the extent they are not addressed in my remarks or David's presentation, answers will also be referred to when the relevant resolutions are introduced. Both my Chairman's address and David's presentation are now available on the ASX announcements platform. As I reflect on the last 2 years, what has been achieved at AnteoTech is truly remarkable, both in terms of addressing the challenges that the business was facing and in making great strides in developing and marketing our unique technologies. The first challenge we tackled was to review the strategy for life sciences, as we needed to face the fact that there was no longer a business case for developing point-of-care products for COVID, with the associated costs, time and risks in a fundamentally different post-pandemic market. This new reality required us to terminate contracts with a number of suppliers, spanning the Eugenie platform, lateral flow contract manufacturers, clinical research trial consultants, and European logistics companies. Doing so required careful negotiation to settle these matters on appropriate terms to avoid ongoing financial or legal obligations. The decision to cease expensive clinical trials enabled us to stem the cash burn on projects that greatly exceeded their revenue generation potential. It also enabled us to restructure and reshape our leadership and reduce headcount and direct costs, with annual savings in the order of $3.3 million. The review of the life science business refreshed the use cases for AnteoBind and led to the development of our AnteoBind NXT product. This enables us to be price competitive and present a credible alternative to traditional chemistries used in diagnostics. The new price point facilitates entry into developing countries such as India and opens up a new market opportunity in pre-activated particles for assays. We now have a significant opportunity to grow this part of the business. The other significant issue we had to deal with was achieving settlement of all claims brought by Ferroglobe International. With these legacy issues now resolved, we have been able to move forward with a clearer focus and clean balance sheet. The last 12 months has been one of considerable commercial progress across both life sciences and clean energy divisions. Under David's leadership, AnteoTech has a market-led, sales-driven culture. We have transitioned from costly research and development that is not linked to commercial outcomes. We are beginning to realise value from this approach, such as the recent order from Mercedes-Benz and the agreement with Serum Institute of India. Since we reset the strategy at the start of 2023, we understand that shareholders are anxious to see early success given their passion for Anteo's technology. Many of you have expressed disappointment at the time taken to deliver commercial success and revenues. The board understands this and firmly believes that our stated strategies are commercially sound and in the interests of all shareholders. As a growth stage technology business, we must fund the business on the best terms commercially available to us to support our activities. We are pleased by the number of new investors supporting these efforts, including from the placement we completed a fortnight ago. And I will touch on capital markets activities again shortly. As we build commercial opportunities in clean energy, we have engaged in significant market feedback to develop a highly commercial approach in everything we do. The key issue is data generation and data integrity, which is fundamental to selling the value proposition of our AnteoX and high silicon anode. This significant body of work has meant that major industry players, such as Mercedes-Benz, see the value and advantages of our technology, supported by irrefutable data and our high-quality technical team that stands behind it. One of our key achievements this year was the completion and commissioning of the AnteoX production facility in Brisbane. This facility enables the initial production of 20,000 litres of AnteoX per annum, but is designed to increase to a total of 80,000 litres per annum at a nominal incremental cost as commercial demand builds. Much time has been spent completing validation batches which have confirmed that the product is scalable, meeting expected quality standards. We are working with a number of potential customers, including a major EV manufacturer who is evaluating the use of AnteoTech in their next generation car battery. Our other key program in clean energy is focused on silicon anode development and also achieved major commercial milestones during the year. An anode with AnteoTech delivered greater than 1,000 charge and discharge cycles with greater than 70% capacity retention in a 20% silicon anode formulation that was optimised for a customer. This represented an exceptional achievement. We expect this data will help drive further engagement with our partners. Meanwhile, AnteoTech's own 70% proprietary silicon anode, which we call UltraNode, was demonstrated to be manufacturable on a commercial scale. The pace at which the development of our UltraNode has progressed is outstanding. Over the last year, the capacity that our anode can deliver has increased by 24%. During the same period, improvements to the anode design achieved substantial improvements in cycle life. At the 2023 AGM, our UltraNode could only achieve 740 cycles at 70% capacity retention. Now we are at 908 cycles at 70% capacity retention, representing a 22% increase in cycle life. This is important as higher capacities generally command a shorter cycle life, but we have been able to progress on both metrics. We have also received further external validation of our work with the receipt of our first commercial order for UltraNode battery anode with 70% silicon. The dominant focus now is to achieve and surpass the 1,000 cycle milestone at 80% capacity retention, which we believe will accelerate traction with strategic partners. With multiple improvement projects running in parallel, this critical achievement, we believe, is within sight. AnteoTech is applying a portfolio approach to the clean energy sales funnel to ensure that there are multiple future revenue streams, and is currently targeting 10 key customers across 3 main segments, being advanced chemistries, which are carbon nanotube and separators, battery manufacturers in consumer electronics, and electric vehicle manufacturers. In order to drive these opportunities, we have recruited a new Vice President, International Sales, Fabian Beck. He joins our team next week. Fabian is based in Europe and brings a wealth of experience in the battery commercialisation and development across both Europe and the USA. One of Fabian's first focus areas will be to cement our key relationships with the 3 leading electrical vehicle manufacturers we are working with, and turn those into long-term commercial arrangements. The board recognises it is asking shareholders to remain patient and resilient as we seek to execute on these partnership opportunities. By their nature, large multinational companies take some time to engage, test, evaluate, and negotiate to acquire new technology such as ours. The good news is that we have multiple groups already testing our technology, and we have received our first revenues for both AnteoTech and UltraNode. Let me turn now to the life sciences business, where we also believe there is great value in our AnteoBind technology in various applications. One of our key achievements this year has been the execution of a purchase agreement with the world's largest vaccine manufacturer, the Serum Institute of India, for United States dollars 1.8 million of AnteoBind over the next 5 years. It is estimated that about 65% of children in the world receive at least one vaccine manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. AnteoBind is being used in the quality assurance programs for new vaccines under development. SII's success in bringing a vaccine to market will generate a requirement for AnteoBind we expect to apply for the life of the vaccine, which in most cases is up to 20 years. Most importantly, this agreement sets out a framework for both parties to build the relationship, with orders expected to exceed the minimum orders per annum as we expand our partnership. India is a key market for our targeted business development efforts to build meaningful revenues in life sciences. Our India Go Big strategy has led to the first commercial evaluation of AnteoBind NXT with Indian biotech Vidcare for inclusion in their range of blood diagnostic test products, including a test for hypothyroidism. We are excited by the data we have developed with our new AnteoBind NXT product. Its applicability to Vidcare's novel products shows our superior ability to activate particles for diagnostic tests over conventional EDC chemistry. This is another substantial commercial opportunity, given the huge medical need to better diagnose underactive thyroids in developing countries, such as India, and through the Indian government's support of Vidcare's work. We carefully evaluate the return on all the investments we make. Key to our success will be to deliver commercial outcomes and milestones so as to enable AnteoTech to attract further capital and other investment dollars to fund our future requirements. At the close of financial year 2023, we had a cash balance of $2,719,838. Plainly, the company needed more capital. In financial year 2024, we raised $9.4 million through private placements and a further $2,084,248 under the share purchase plans. A fortnight ago, we raised a further $3.5 million by way of private placement, and last week launched the entitlement offer that is currently open, seeking $5 million. This has strengthened our balance sheet and added new investors to our register. These capital raisings were not optional. Our balance sheet is important to the counterparties we deal with. I do want to welcome all those who recently joined our register and thank sincerely both new and existing shareholders who supported the company through the various capital raisings. During the year, the company received 2 grants, which are non-dilutive funding and accelerate commercialisation of our innovative silicon anode technology. We were awarded approximately $1.4 million under a Queensland Government grant in their Critical Minerals and Battery Technology Fund. In addition, we received approximately $4 million funding grant with ARENA under the Advancing Renewables program. Before I move on, I would encourage all eligible shareholders to consider supporting our entitlement offer, which we see as an attractive opportunity. And I would add that the directors' intentions are to take up their full entitlements in that regard. In summary, I believe we have made good progress this year, and we are well positioned to convert our exciting sales pipeline into significant commercial opportunities for the benefit of our shareholders. Most pleasingly, we have multiple shots on goal to achieve this in the coming quarters. I would like to thank my fellow directors for their continued support and commitment over the past year as we have navigated a broad range of opportunities and challenges together. On behalf of the board, I express my gratitude to David, to his leadership team, and to every one of our employees who have all shown unwavering commitment and professionalism as we strive to deliver the commercial success and revenues we need. Finally, the progress we have made in commercializing our technologies has only been made possible because of our shareholders. We do appreciate your ongoing support of AnteoTech. Let me now hand over to David Radford for his presentation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Ewan, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to provide the CEO update this year and to report on targets for 2025 and beyond. Our company mission now clearly enunciates the purpose of the company, this being the accelerated development and commercialisation of societally beneficial solutions. Key being here that all of what we are doing must be of value to our business partners. And a good example of this in the last year has been the launch of AnteoBind NXT, which was an accelerated development program and under Chewy's leadership got to market very quickly and is now being evaluated in India. As I look to the future, it's not the intent of this presentation to spend time reviewing the past year. However, it's appropriate to recognise the exceptional outcomes that have been achieved by the AnteoTech team, and I recognise the contribution from all of our team members. There were many highlights, including our first paid evaluations of AnteoX and UltraNode by Mercedes-Benz. And not to be outdone, our life sciences team entered into a 5-year contract with Serum Institute of India. This represents the commencement of a long-term relationship with Serum Institute that is targeting growth and expansion of AnteoBind usage as more vaccines are developed and reach commercialisation stage. There were multiple other achievements during the year that have positioned the company well for future growth. These include the ability to produce AnteoX and UltraNode at commercial scales, the resolution of the Ferroglobe case, and a continued focus upon cost control and appropriate allocation of resources. The clean energy team have been doing an exceptional job in developing solutions for the movement to higher silicon anodes and the associated benefits that this brings to the customers. Development work upon AnteoX is continued as the company validates the ability to produce product at a commercial scale, and we've received validation of the performance from multiple groups, including the technical and costing engineers within Mercedes. These groups have consistently confirmed that the product, A, delivers to expected outcomes, and B, is of interest to them as they embark upon the transition to high silicon anodes. The Mercedes costings engineers have also confirmed that the incorporation of AnteoX into the anode and substitution of more than 50% of carbon nanotubes with AnteoX provides cost benefits to the development program currently underway. I'm pleased to confirm that we are providing AnteoX for incorporation into anodes for a manufacturing validation as part of Mercedes' process involved in moving to a design freeze. In other evaluations of AnteoX, the product both increases energy density and improves performance of high silicon anodes. During the year, a novel potential use was identified using AnteoX in the enhancement of separator safety and hence battery safety. Initial results are confirming that incorporation of AnteoX does in fact reduce separator shrinkage and thereby improving the safety potential of the product. Further validation work is underway and more data is expected by the end of January 2025. The UltraNode product has made some very significant progress in 2024. As you can see from the graphics, the team has increased the baseline energy capacity by 24% and at the same time has been able to further increase the cycling capacity of the battery by 22%. These are two very important achievements, as the usual trend is that as energy capacity increases through the addition of increased amounts of silicon, it's usual to see a decline in the cycling capability of the anode. AnteoTech have been able to overcome this effect, and it's this ability that is capturing the attention of the EV companies with which we've been working. And as advised, we were very pleased to report that Mercedes has purchased the first UltraNode anode for their evaluation as they look to transition to higher silicon anodes from a current 10% silicon content that they're working with. As you will also understand, this capability is not limited to EVs alone, and the company remains engaged with multiple specialist battery companies, including Weon, with which it's targeting a commercial engagement in 2025. Since the termination of the Eugenie project, the life sciences team have rapidly refocused themselves on building the data sets to support the commercialization of AnteoBind. This has required both scientific input and also a complete review of the marketing mix for the product and consequent development of a new product, AnteoBind NXT, which was released in June this year. The first commercial evaluation is underway with VidCare, an Indian point-of-care company. Upon successful validation of NXT in VidCare's specific usage situation, it is expected that a meaningful sales contract will be executed. Further validation work has confirmed the ability of AnteoBind NXT to reduce both the conjugation and antibody costs when used in conjunction with a wide range of particles used in diagnostic tests. This graphic demonstrates the savings that are possible when NXT is incorporated into the manufacturing process. Marketing initiatives have commenced to leverage this new data into commercial agreements. What is very pleasing about the life sciences business is the stickiness of the revenues. Once a product gains regulatory approval containing AnteoBind, it then becomes very costly to resubmit a product for regulatory approval in the event that there are any changes to the design of the product. Success in this market sector will be driven by early engagement on the development of new products and development of long-term relationships that continue to add value to our customers. The recent announcement of the ARENA grant of 3.99 million of non-dilutive funding is a tremendous outcome for the company. This grant is ARENA's first commitment to a battery technology company such as AnteoTech, and it comes as a result of a very extensive due diligence process that confirms both the commercial approach and technical viabilities of the products. We were delighted to receive the support from ARENA and will apply the funding to future development of very high performance anodes that are applicable for ultra high performance electric vehicles and battery storage systems. The company has a current cash balance of 7.2 million, and as Ewan mentions, has just launched a new rights issue. This ability to raise capital has not been missed by the EV companies that Manuel and I met with last week. Positive comments have been made with respect to our shareholder support and viability of AnteoTech as a business partner from both Mercedes-Benz and EV3. Importantly, as we look to FY 2025 and beyond, I'm going to discuss the recent visit to Europe, which I'm sure is the major point of interest for everyone, and some of the positive outcomes from meetings held there when I focus upon the clean energy targets for the year ahead. The targets that the company have signed up to are making good progress towards commercial agreements, which remains the key focus for the business. And the transition to a market-led, sales-driven organisation has been embraced by all of the AnteoTech team. The commercial approach that we are following is outlined in this slide. We have several ways in which we can monetize the products and services offered by the company. Development agreements are particularly attractive, as not only does the company recognise revenues for the sale of a development service, it also uses the core products such as AnteoX or AnteoBind in the development process, thereby locking in a future annuity stream for these products. As you will appreciate, the company is also targeting direct sales of its leading products, where this is viewed as the most appropriate approach to the customer. And I'm pleased that the portfolio approach we're taking to this business development allows for targeting of large customers, such as the EV group, as well as smaller, nimbler customer groups. As I report upon the whistle-stop tour that Manuel and I conducted in the last week through Europe, the objective of the meetings were to advance evaluations and commercial conversations with, in particular, Mercedes-Benz and EV3. I'm pleased to advise that good progress has been made with EV3 as they evaluate the outsourcing of their anode development. A technical and pricing proposal has been submitted and reviewed with this company. We have made good progress in establishing AnteoTech as a credible development partner and a leader in the anode development sector. EV3 is targeting a recommendation to their management prior to Christmas as to their preferred supplier of these development services, with a targeted commencement of the agreement later in Q1 2025. And I'm pleased to announce that AnteoTech is a serious contender for this business opportunity. In Stuttgart, meetings were held with senior management of Mercedes-Benz, leveraging the extensive evaluation that has been conducted and the value that we've added to Mercedes with the anode work that has been undertaken. This discussion outlined a path for the near-term future that may enable some form of investment or joint development agreement upon satisfactory evaluation of the ultranode when used in Mercedes-specific battery configurations. This evaluation is targeted to require a further 6 months of work, which Mercedes-Benz have agreed to fast-track, and both parties have agreed to work closely to define the opportunity for ultranode within the Mercedes battery ecosystem. In parallel, the AnteoTech evaluation is proceeding, and Mercedes-Benz have requested AnteoTech for incorporation in a manufacturing trial as part of their process that ultimately will lead to a design freeze. We are now working with Mercedes on both AnteoTech and ultranode, and the recent visit has confirmed the support for the initiatives underway by senior management representatives from Mercedes-Benz. Also, as a direct result of the marketing initiatives undertaken by the company and attendance at the AABC and battery shows over the past 12 months, the company was approached by a niche manufacturer of high performance in Europe. A positive first meeting was held with members of their management team, and next steps are that the cell manufacturer will evaluate AnteoTech for incorporation in their anodes. Further work is required to ensure that all IP protection is in place before proceeding, but this customer has confirmed that they will purchase some initial quantities of AnteoTech for evaluation. The work with the separator company is continuing to proceed, with the initial performance results confirming the potential value of AnteoTech when used in ceramic separators. Further validation is required as we look at combining AnteoTech with their slurry material, and this creates a new product offering. More data and feedback is expected from this group by mid-Q1 2025. Separate to these meetings in Europe, AnteoTech was visited by a member of Weon's management team with a view to validating the capabilities of the company. We understand that recommendations are being made to the management of Weon to commence a commercial engagement on terms still to be finalised. Similarly, with the Life Sciences Division, we're delighted to have the engagement with both Serum Institute and Vidcare from India. We currently have Dr. Rishi in India discussing further opportunities to expand AnteoBind usage within Serum Institute, and in parallel, accelerating the Vidcare evaluation. Dr. Rishi is also holding a range of meetings with further lateral flow and point-of-care developers within the Indian market, which is expanding quickly as a direct result of Indian government initiatives that are driving its Health for All program. I believe that the opportunity for significant growth within the Life Science Division has been enhanced by the expansion of data sets and the recent launch of AnteoBind NXT, which enables AnteoTech to compete with EDC on price, but outperform the product on productivity and cost savings. This recently confirmed data is being developed into a marketing package to target international diagnostics companies as we move into 2025. As I close this presentation, I'm pleased to outline multiple takeaways for the meeting. Firstly, we have two great products in the Clean Energy Division that are a key part of enabling the transition to high silicon anodes in lithium-ion batteries. These are well supported by data and are gaining good traction across a range of businesses. We have a solid platform for growth in the life science business. The focus in the Indian market, coupled with AnteoBind NXT, is a very exciting opportunity ahead. And with further compelling data being generated on efficiency gain by using AnteoBind, we are now targeting multiple international companies with a solid and real data set. We now have a commercially focused and ready business with cash allocated and spent in areas that impact upon our commercialization initiatives. We also have visibility and engagement now with key decision makers in senior roles within multiple businesses. The technology is performing well beyond expectations, and we are now focused upon closing deals that have the opportunity to be transformative for the company. This year marks an exciting step forward for the business in Europe with the hiring of Fabian Beck, who brings experience, networks, and a great deal of energy to the sales leadership in clean energy. Having spent time with Fabian during the recent European trip, I have no doubt in the ability of both he and the clean energy team to drive this business forward. Before I close, it's important to recognise the achievements and contribution of the team. The leadership team is world-class, and I'm very proud to have built a team of this calibre and experience, and thank them for all they've done in building this professional business. Of course, it's important to also recognise the broader team, their engagement and support as we've managed this transition to a commercially focused business, and I thank all of you for your contributions. Thank you also to the shareholders for your support during the year and your attendance, and whether online or in person today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. Let me now move into the formal items of business. So firstly, only shareholders, proxies or other authorised representatives present in person are entitled to ask questions at today's meeting, and matters raised must be relevant to the business of the meeting. 5 resolutions are to be put to shareholders at today's annual general meeting. All resolutions are ordinary resolutions, meaning that to pass they require at least 50% of the votes cast in favour by shareholders entitled to vote on the resolution. Resolution 6 has been withdrawn. It was a special resolution with some voting restrictions, and from the proxies received, while it had majority support, it would not have received at least 75% of the votes in favour by shareholders entitled to vote. Shareholders and proxy holders who have received a yellow voting card are entitled to vote and speak at today's meeting. Those shareholders in possession of a blue non-voting card are welcome to ask questions, while those attendees with a red card are not permitted to ask questions and are kindly requested to observe the rest of the meeting. If you think you have not got the correct card, please see the registration desk who will assist you. Each agenda item will be discussed in turn, and we will address questions relevant to that item. Please wait for me to invite you to ask your question. Hold up your voting card and state your name before asking the question. In the interest of all shareholders, could I ask that you be as concise as possible and comment and speak once on a particular item. Please save your questions on particular items of business until we reach that resolution. When the meeting concludes, please join members of the board and management for a late morning tea in the foyer to continue our discussions. Voting today will be conducted by way of a poll on all items of business. Link Market Services will collect the voting cards at the end of the meeting. All members, appointed attorneys, corporate representatives and proxies entitled to vote were given a yellow card upon admission to the meeting. To cast your vote for, against or to abstain from voting on a resolution, place a mark in the corresponding box on your voting card. If you place a mark in more than one box in relation to a resolution, your vote for that resolution will be invalid. If you are voting in more than one capacity, for example, as a shareholder and a proxy holder, you will have received separate voting cards enabling you to vote in each capacity. I appoint Chris Healy of Link Market Services as Returning Officer for the purpose of the poll. Valid proxies are held by Link Market Services, our share registry provider. I will announce the valid proxies received for each resolution when the meeting is asked to vote on that resolution. Please note that all valid proxies that have been received within the prescribed time limits have been admitted. Further, and as set out in the notice of meeting and proxy form, I confirm I intend to vote undirected proxies given to me as chairman of the meeting in favour of each item of business. The Corporations Act and the listing rules require that certain persons must not vote in particular ways, and the company must disregard particular votes cast by or on behalf of certain persons, basically being the board, on resolutions 1, 3, 4 and 5. Full details of these voting restrictions are set out in the notice of meeting. So as required by section 317 of the Corporations Act, I table for discussion the annual report, including the financial report, director's report and independent auditor's report for AnteoTech Limited and its controlled entities for the year ended 30 June 2024. This report has been made available to all shareholders. There is no requirement for a shareholder resolution on this item, but we will get to questions very shortly. The company's auditor, Mr. Lucas Molinas from BDO, is present and able to answer any questions in respect of the independent auditor's report. Let me pause now to ask if there are any questions for the auditor in respect of his report. Thank you. We got a number of questions from shareholders before the meeting. A lot of them were able to be incorporated in my remarks and in David's presentation, although questions containing offensive language and defamatory material are not permitted and have not been responded to. There are a couple of other questions that we received, so let me now address them. They were in essentially 4 questions going to IP protection, cyber risk, the new executive that we've hired, and the company's governance. So on IP protection, our IP comes in 2 forms primarily. It comes in something that can be protected as a patent and something that is regarded as know-how or confidential information. We protect both of those with the benefit of our advisors, our patent attorney advisors and our legal advisors. Where we can, we seek patent registration, and where it's confidential information, we seek protection through confidentiality agreements. We could go into quite a lot of detail about all of that. There's a plus and a minus in doing so. There's a plus that I understand shareholders are interested. There's a minus in that it gives those who seek to disrupt us a pathway as to how to do so. We have been through an extensive process with someone who seeks to disrupt us, so we are a little concerned as to how much information that we provide further on IP and confidential information protection. In relation to cyber risk, we are acutely conscious that manufacturing industries in Australia are now at the top of the list of cyber targets. We outsource our technology platforms and our technology provider, that being on a risk assessment, the most cost-effective way of providing us with the service that we have. There is a risk in an outsourced arrangement, but we do look from a management and board perspective at how our outsourced provider manages those cyber risks, and they are assessed in the process in terms of appointing the outsourced provider. And David, I think we've just been through that process again very recently, and we're about to make a change.
Yes.
Yes, we are about to make a change as a result of all of that. In relation to the company's governance, the board operates as a collective group. If I can ask you to picture an hourglass where you have a round circle at the top, a neck in the middle and a round circle at the bottom, then picture the board around the round circle at the top. And we operate as a collective group of individuals making a collective decision with individual skills that each board member brings to the table. Right now, because Dr. Cumming has been involved with the company for such a long time, his time with the company will come to an end, but I'm not going to say when, because he's a very valuable member of our board. And we are out in the market looking for a non-executive director with particular skills to complement the skills around the board table, but with a focus on assisting us in our clean energy technology. That director will not have any individual responsibility to direct management, but will be part of the board team. The board as a whole delegates to the chief executive a number of items under a clearly identified delegation of authority so that the chief executive knows how much money he has to spend, what matters need to come back to the board for approval, and all of that happens on a regular basis. Sitting around the bottom of the hourglass, so if you can imagine the chief executive as the neck of the hourglass, which is probably the right place to imagine the chief executive, sitting around the bottom of the hourglass is the leadership team. Now, the leadership team are appointed by the CEO with the concurrence of the board. The leadership team each have individual responsibilities and accountabilities to the CEO. If there's a particular responsibility or accountability that is not parcelled out to a member of the leadership team, it rolls back up to the CEO. Fabian Beck will be a member of that leadership team with particular responsibilities and accountabilities, and he will report back to the CEO. Hiring Fabian was something we identified at the start of the year that we wanted to do. One of the key things in employing people is you go through a process, you find the right person, you persuade them to leave their organisation and join us. Then you go through the process where they have to extricate themselves from their organisation and join us. In the case of Fabian, that has taken most of this year to achieve, and we are absolutely delighted that he is starting on Monday with us. We would have liked him to start a lot earlier. In fact, we would have liked him, I think, to start in July. But it has actually taken from July to now to extract Fabian because he had a 6-month notice period. We had to negotiate with his former employer to get that reduced, and then he wanted to have a break before he started with us. And all of that has now happened, and he's ready to go. That will free up David from some of the things that David has been doing to have more time to be able to focus on other opportunities, which is exactly what we want the CEO to do. So let me stop there. There were a number of questions on technical matters, but we have endeavoured to deal with those questions on technical matters in the material in David's presentation, which is up on the ASX website. Are there any questions in the room, please, on the adoption of the financial statements or on my address or on David's presentation? Mr. Kimmis. You might need the microphone so that those online can hear you.
I think that's on. Yes. I'm Peter Kemmis, a long-time shareholder. Thank you for your answers to a number of those questions. And my question is relating actually to, well, really our very sagging share price. The company is not responsible for that sagging share price, which has gone from 4 cents down to 2 cents over the last 12 months. It's us as part of the investor community. But, you know, despite all the substantial technical advances we've seen in the last AGM, and David's iterated those quite well, they've opened up many opportunities, but the share price has halved. Now, either the market doesn't believe the future that we see, or possibly, and it's unaware. So in the absence of a substantial near-term contract or deal with a clean energy prospect, what should the company be doing differently in terms of investor information and relations? Because if it keeps doing the same thing, we'll get the same result, a constantly sagging share price. What should we do differently?
Well, we share your views in relation to the share price. That's a function of the market. We would prefer a share price to be higher. The capital needs of the company would be greatly assisted if the share price were higher. We review what we do. We will be reviewing as a board and executive team after this meeting. Are there things we can do differently? In the course of the last year, in fact, I have the precise number. I'll just find it here. I have the precise number of ASX announcements that we made. 65, plus the quarterly statements, plus the half-yearly and full-yearly financial statements, plus the annual general meeting. There's a lot of information that is provided. we will review what we can do. Next questions.
Steve Erickson, long-term shareholder, back from the SSH days, and in fact a director of the company when it changed over from SSH to BioLayer and ADO. Just in following up from that, one of the issues that came up recently with David's visit to Europe was that he was intending to seek partnership-type agreements for extending investment into the company. Why are we doing that?
As I addressed in my own remarks, Steve, we need capital, and we continue to consume capital until such time as we are able to derive revenue to meet our annual expenses. And we don't have revenue sufficient to meet our annual expenses today. We have a business plan to get there, but that business plan requires two things to work for us. Firstly, on the life sciences side, there is, as has been described, a number of prospective opportunities to grow the revenues of the company. On the CET side, when I joined as chairman, there were no revenues on clean energy technology. There are now some, small indeed, but there are now some. For the company to move away from its dependence on capital will be a process that will require commercial agreements, such as the joint development agreements that we are targeting, which could come in the form of an investment in the company. But I don't want to speculate on how that's going to look. It could come in the form of a payment for services rendered. We will be very open as to what type of agreement which we as a board judge to be in the best interest of the company. And if the entry into such an agreement requires shareholder approval, then we will need to bring it back to shareholders to approve. But at this stage, we don't have any. I don't want to encourage any speculation in that regard. We don't have a proposal to bring back to shareholders, but we do think that, when I first joined the board, the company spent 6 months with some third parties looking very closely through a confidential information memorandum at its clean energy technology opportunities, and the feedback was really good as to where our data and our investments needed to be made to get further data up and running to be able to present that to the market. We take all that feedback into account, and we have used that feedback in the direction of our R&D efforts in the last 2 years, and that's led to the success that we've had. The fact that we've opened some doors, you read the Fin Review today and it talks about EV manufacturers being in a world of pain. We believe that the product that we have will help them despite the market conditions, because it leads to less expensive, lighter, longer lasting, safer batteries to be used. That's in effect the business model. When we crack it, we'll all be delighted, but we haven't got there yet. Mr. Martin.
Hello, Richard Martin. I'm a long-term shareholder. David talked about leveraging long-term relationships with NXT. Would you be able to, or David be able to expand on what is being done with companies like Merck, Dynal and Luminex in regarding to leveraging those long-term relationships, please?
Is that on? Yeah. So, Richard, yes, the data that was presented to those groups previously have failed in many ways. and we have had to go back with more data sets to have more relevance. So we've had conversations with Merck, who are pursuing an alternative angle, which was of more importance to them. Dynel, we are struggling to get traction with, but we are working with Thermo Fisher and I believe Bangs in India, which is now Indian owned. So we've got meetings with them. So we're going back in with a new data set, and that has been key to actually opening the door again.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?